A hadith that is gharib in its chain and its test related that the Prophet said regarding the Dajjal, verily he is one-eyed, and indeed Allah is not one-eyed. He will come out and remain on earth for 40 mornings, going to every place of water except for the Kaaba, Jerusalem, and Al-Madinah. A month will be like a week, and a week will be like a day. He and week will be like a day. He will have with him a paradise and a fire. His fire is in actuality paradise, and his paradise is in actuality fire. With him will be a mountain of bread and a river of water. He will call for a man to be brought to him, and Allah will not allow for him to have power over anyone except for him. The Dajjal will say to him, "What do you say regarding me?" The man will say, "You are the enemy of Allah. You are a Dajjal the liar." The Dajjal will call for a sword to be brought. He will lay him down, cut him in half, and then revive him. Then he will say to him, "What do you say?" The man will say, "By Allah, I never had a clearer understanding of you than I do now. You are the enemy of Azza wa Jal. To him belongs might and majesty. You are the Dajjal that the Messenger of Allah informed us about. The Dajjal will pounce down on him with his sword, but he will not be able to harm him, and then he will say, 'Take him away from me.'" This hadith is gharib. The hadith of Asma bint Yazid. When the Messenger of Allah was in my house, he mentioned the Dajjal, saying, "Before him are 3 years, a year in which the sky will hold back 1/3 of its rain, and the earth 1/3 of its crops; the second year, in which the sky will hold back 2/3 of its rain, and the earth 2/3 of its crops; and the third, in which the sky will hold back all of its rain, and the earth all of its crops. Every beast that has a molar or a hoof will be destroyed. His greatest fitna trial will be that he will go to a Bedouin and say, 'Suppose that I were to bring your father and your brother back to life, would you then know that I am indeed your Lord?' He will say, 'Yes.' 2 devils will then appear before him in the shape of his father and brother." Asma said, "Then the Messenger of Allah went out to fulfill a need, and by the time he returned, the people were in a state of anxiety over that which he related to them. He took the two rings of the door and said, 'What is it?' I said, 'O Messenger of Allah, you have extracted our hearts with the mention of the Dajjal.' The Prophet said, 'If he comes out while I am alive, then I am his opponent. Otherwise, my Lord is indeed my Khalifa over every believer, their guardian and protector.' Asma said, 'O Messenger of Allah, by Allah, we knead our dough, and we bake so as to not go hungry. What will be the situation of the believers at that time?' He said, 'That which is sufficient for the inhabitants of the sky in terms to say, Subhanallah, how perfect Allah is. Glorification of Allah will be sufficient for them.' Related it through another chain as well, a chain that is okay. In another chain, Asma related that the Messenger of Allah said, 'As for whoever attends my gathering and hears my speech, then let the one who is present convey my words to the one who is absent, and know that Allah is Sahir, well perfect, and without defect, and not one-eyed. He, the Dajjal, has an eye that is effaced, and written between his eyes is Kafir, disbeliever, which every believer will read, regardless of whether he is literate or illiterate. We will mention a similar narration from Asma bint Umays, yet this is the one that is mahfuz, memorized by the trustworthy ones, and Allah knows best. The Hadith of Aisha. related that the Messenger of Allah mentioned extremely difficult times. Just before the arrival of the Dajjal, the companions asked, "What wealth will be of most value at that time?" He said, "A black boy or servant giving water to his family. As for food, there is none." They asked at that time, "What will be the food of the believers?" He said at Tasbih to say, "Subhanallah, how perfect Allah is. Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. La ilaha illallah, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah." Where will the Arabs be at that time? He said, "They will be a few only." Ahmad related it, and its chain contains some gharib. But we have already mentioned the Ahadeeth of Asma and Abi, both of which attest to this one, and Allah knows best.